Only difference. What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into the Texas Reaction live stream here on the Country Roads webcast. As always, I'm your host, Jordan Cruz, joined by my co host, Steven,
What's up, everybody?
and our other co host, Bradley.
How's it going?
All right, so West Virginia defeats Texas 31-23 to keep their bowl game hopes alive. Mountaineers move to 5-6 on the 2021 season. One game left, a road game contest against Kansas. If WU can win, they will be bowl eligible. Looking at some numbers from the game, Jared Dagey, 27-43, 290, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Letty Brown, 33 carries on senior day, 33 carries, 158 yards, and a touchdown. Tony Mathis adds 5 for 23. WU over 100 yards rushing. 12-0 under Neil Brown now when they go for over 100 yards rushing. Winston Wright, 6 catches, 67 yards, and a touchdown. Sam James, 5 for 64 and a touchdown. Bryce Wheaton, 3 for 58. Caden Prather, 4 for 48. That's some of the numbers from the offense. Looking at the defensive side, Josh Chandler-Samito led the way with 12 tackles. Sean Mahone, 6 tackles and an interception. That was very important. A tackle and a half for a loss for Dante Stills. And then the true freshman, St. McLeod, who stepped in and made a start, ended up with 6 tackles as well. So some numbers from the game there, gentlemen. West Virginia with a big victory, important victory, trying to get to bowl eligibility and needed a bounce back win. Just some opening thoughts from the game. What'd you like that you saw there, Stephen?
I really like that they didn't give up. I think in the Kansas State game and a few other games this year, I think we've questioned if the team's mindset is still there. I think it was really on a positive note coming out and showing that they could really bounce back from a loss or a couple losses that they've had to Oklahoma State and Kansas State in the past couple weeks. Um, I I think that we've seen that Jared Deggy can be a pretty good quarterback if he's given time in the pocket. I think that has been the glaring problem for me is that he just has the inability to escape pressure. And I think that, you know, yesterday he really did a good job of rolling out of the pocket and making time for himself and finding the open guy. Now he did miss a lot of open guys, like he has been, several times this year. There was a lot of times I still noticed Letty Brown or a couple other guys off on the side, off on like I can remember one play where Letty Brown rolled out. He had a swing out to the left and was wide open the whole time. And Jerry Dickey just stands there and eventually throws it out of the out of bounds for an incomplete pass. So there's you know I like that we beat Texas, but Texas is not a good football team this year. They just plain and simply aren't. Bijan Robinson, I think, was the only glue that held that together. And now that he's gone, they're just struggling. So we beat a really bad Texas team. I'm glad that we did beat them, horns down as always. But
Hands down.
I think that going into this next weekend, I really, for the first time ever, I don't really know who I'm going to pick in the game this weekend.
Yeah, Kansas has looked good. Of course, they beat Texas as well, and then hung right there with TCU. And their offense can score points. The Texas has given up a lot on defense, though. So hopefully, West Virginia's offense can continue, the trend that they started in this Texas game. But Bradley, what are your thoughts on this win over Texas and just the performance in general by West Virginia?
Yeah, at this point in time, I would just take a win as a win this year, and we're one win away from going bowling, which is like a prospect. A couple weeks ago, we probably wouldn't have even considered. We were at the point where we didn't even think we were going to win another game this season. So it's really nice to come out and get a win, especially against Texas, because it always seems like our games against Texas are a little extra chippy, a little extra, intense. It seems. I thought our offense played really well. Jared Diggy definitely when he has time, he looks fine. But it's just they get any kind of pressure on him, and he just starts to crumble. So I still just don't know what to make of that. I'm not going to sit here and analyze him anymore. He is what he is, and maybe he'll get better. Maybe he'll stay. Maybe he won't. I don't know. At this point in time, I just want to beat Kansas this weekend. Our defense started getting
Jerry
gashed by
Dickey?
the run game. I don't know what happened. Yeah.
I think it's pretty
If he's going
clear
to
that he's
leave,
staying.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's looking that way.
Yeah, I think he is too. I still just don't know if I just don't want it to be a competition, though. I don't want it to go into the next season. Like Jordan said when we talked about it a couple weeks ago, I think it's definitely his job to lose, but I don't want it to be, just sealed for him. I want to see, Nico fight for that spot. But yeah, I don't know what happened with our defense in the second half of just getting. I don't know if it's because we're, weak at the linebacker spot right now or like what's going on, but they were breaking out some 15, 20-yard runs. It seemed like every other play. And even without Bijan Robinson, they still had their two running backs had a heck of a day. I think that I know one of them put up over 100 yards, and I think the other one got pretty close. I think he put up like 80 something. Or something like that. I think they together put up almost 200 yards. Yeah, so it was a lot of yards. But yeah, so that's definitely something we can't have happen going into Kansas, because playing Kansas at Kansas, like Steven said, this is the first time where it's like this is probably actually going to be a bit of a game. We're going to have to come out and play just as well as we played against Texas, which has been one of our better games this year. Just have a chance of beating Kansas at Kansas, and that's worrisome. But hey, you got to step up to the challenge, I guess.
Yeah, it's a big moment. I think this game I think was very big for this season and for this team and for Neil Brown, and they came out and did it. But it's one thing to do it at home. Going on the road to Kansas is going to be a different story. It's kind of weird to say because you don't think about it being a tough place to play, but Kansas is looking pretty good under their new coach, Lance Leipold. There they got from Buffalo, and I think that they've shown some good things. And it's going to be a tough matchup for West Virginia to try and get a win there. But hopefully they come out just as hungry and get to that bowl game. But um, looking at it going forward, I guess. Will you be satisfied with a bowl game? Does it need to be a bowl game win for you? Because to me, the way I look at it is they've been preaching preaching rather. Trust the climb. Went from 5 wins to 6 wins. So I think realistically, you need to get to 7 wins this season. To me, it was always like the minimum goal for me if you're going to say trust the climb. So if they win against Kansas and win a bowl game, that's 7 wins, 5, 6, 7. I think you're still on track there. So for me, that's what I'm looking forward to moving forward is hopefully getting 7 wins. But what about you guys? Will you guys be satisfied with the bowl game? Just moving forward with the season, what's successful to you guys, Bradley?
Yeah, I definitely think that a bowl win would definitely appease some of the fan base. I think that people are still a little upset that the season didn't necessarily turn out the way it was. But getting to a bowl game isn't. Um, I don't know if a win is necessary because I really don't know who we're going to play against. If I had to guess, we'll probably be an underdog in a bowl, unless we just really get handed a gimme. But I don't know if I'd consider it a must win. It would definitely probably because I still don't know if I'm on because you see improvement this week, and if we beat Kansas and we see more improvement on the offense, is Neil Brown going to be able to save some of his assistant coaches in the offseason? And I think that bowl game might really be the determining factor of just like, hey, like you guys really need to like step into another direction, or if we come out and win a bowl game, then he might get lucky and be able to keep the pieces that he's wanting to keep. So I don't think it's a must win, but I think it would definitely make me happy, and I would consider it successful considering where I thought we were at a couple weeks ago.
Steve, what about you? You go 2-4 into the bye week. Probably none of us thought we would even get a chance at a bowl game. So for you, is making a bowl game constitute a success with how this season started, or do you need the bowl game win, or are you if you go 5-7, or you're like it is what it is? What do you think successful this season
I
at
think
this
with the
point?
way that this season has gone, especially towards the end of this season, I think if you just make a bowl game, I would consider it a success. I would consider it a success if they won the bowl game, because then on one level, like you said, it's 7 wins. That's climbing. That's a positive. That's improving from what we did last year. But like I said, the way that this season has gone, and with as many problems and as much adversity as this team's faced, I think if you win your last 2 games and then go to a bowl game and win that game, no matter what what .com bowl it's going to be, I think that would be a positive, because that would be showing that your team is improving. Not only during the off season, but towards the end of the season and throughout the season as well. And I think that's a really big positive. So I think if you can get to a bowl game and win it, if you get to a bowl game, I wouldn't necessarily look at it as a failure. But I think you would have to win the bowl game to be able to look at it as a positive in my mind.
Okay, so we all kind of agree, get to a bowl game for sure, and hopefully win it because we're talking about the climb there. But with that being said, let's best case scenario. West Virginia finishes with a win at Kansas, goes to a bowl game, gets that 7th win, 7-6. How hot is Neil Brown's seat, if hot at all, going into next season? And what does he need to do to ensure his job security next season? Number of wins or what have you? What do you think is going on there, Bradley?
Yeah, so you're talking about like going into next season, what is he going to need to do to really keep his seat cool?
Yeah,
I think it's
if he
gonna, yeah, he's
finishes with
definitely have to
7 wins
continue.
this year, yeah.
Yeah, I think that anything less than 7 wins next year would probably have people still upset. I think that generally, I don't even know if it's obviously wins are going to matter next year. He's going to have to hit probably at least 7 wins, but it can't be the same kind of sloppy 7 wins that we could have pulled off this year if we end up with 7 wins. I don't think he can have the same scrape by wins that he's had this year. I think that it's really going to depend on our play next year. Like our team needs to come out and look like an improved team. They need to come out and look like a team that's not going to shoot themselves in the foot every other game. And so I think if he at least hits 7 wins, gets to another bowl, and they're good, clean wins, 7 wins, and then goes to a bowl and has a chance to get that 8th win, I think would still keep his seat kind of cool. Anything like 8 wins and up, I think that people will be pretty happy. So, yeah, that's how I think that his seat's going to look next year. Anything under 7 wins, though, I
I
think
would
that
agree.
he really starts to worry about getting pushed out.
Yeah, I think next year, like we said it last week, it's the show me year really. So I think you need to have, probably 7 regular season wins, like you said, maybe even 8. But Stephen, what about you? Do you think Neil Brown's seat's a little warm, and what does he need to do next season to cool that off?
I think even with a bowl win, his seat's going to be lukewarm going into next season. I think you're going to have to prove, like Bradley said, you're going to have to show that you have cleaned up your play on offense, especially. I think the defensive side of the ball is more than satisfactory. Even when they've played bad, I think it's been, you can use it any excuse that you want to, but I think that, when you get gassed and you have to be on the field for the multitude of the game, it's really going to tire your whole defense out. So I don't really have a problem with how the defense has progressed and developed over the past couple of years, but I think that the offense really has to show a lot of improvement, and in winning games. I think if you win any less than 8 games next year, and I don't mean to just go up one win each season. I think that 8 wins should be the threshold, to be considered a success or a non-success. I don't know what the payout would be off of his contract, if they fired him next season. I know it's $20 million right now. There's no way that is ever going to happen. WV is not paying
Right.
that. But I don't know what it would be next year. But I would think that the athletic department isn't going to take 6 wins or anything around that area. I think that they're ready to see improvement, and if we're going to be, on the right track, we need to see steady improvement each and every year. And you're going to lose recruits like we've lost in the last couple of weeks. You know, that's just part of the game. You're going to get recruits, you're going to lose recruits. People are going to commit, they're going to decommit, and we got to roll with the punches. And I think the West Virginia is going to be okay with that. Losing Justin Williams and Kevin Thomas really does hurt. I think those losses really affected that. But if West Virginia really is climbing and they're going to be a successful football team, I think that Neil Brown really has to show that they are going to progress. He's got to make believers out of people. And that was my one gripe with him, was that they weren't competitive in a lot of the losses that we've had this year. And I can take losses. I've seen them a lot in my time as a WVU fan. I can't take a loss while they're not being competitive. And if we have any game next year that they play to a non-competitive level in a game and lose and get blown out, I don't know that I can still be on the Neil Brown train. I still need to see, that fight in the dog that we've always had. It's very rare that West Virginia gets blown out like that. I feel like.
Yeah, you got to be competitive,
Yeah,
especially
we can't have another
you want to be able
Oklahoma
to
State
play.
K State game.
Right, and you want to be
Yeah.
able to be playing important games that matter in November and be in those games by, November of this season. West Virginia was well out of the mix, and I think next season that's something that you got to do is by, in November you want to be playing in important games that matter, and you want to be close and show that you're competitive with the conference's top teams. I think is what's most important moving forward. But looking back at this past matchup, I know we always do players of the game. We'll get to that momentarily, but I did want to ask you guys, what do you guys think was the biggest play of this game that kind of either changed it to where you knew, okay, West Virginia's going to win this game, or the play that you feel like, just really gave West Virginia that solid advantage, whether it was early or late? I'll start it off just for example for me. I think the biggest play of the game was Texas started gaining some momentum, got it down to a 1-score game. Daggy sacked on back-to-back plays to start the drive. 3rd and 18 and a 19-yard pass completion of Winston Wright. I think that was the play of the game. West Virginia goes on to score on that drive, and I think that really changed the game. So for me, that would be my play of the game. What about you guys? What's your play of the game in this one, Stephen?
I don't really know. I guess I would have to say that was the game defining moment. But the play of the game for me was, I guess, the Winston Wright touchdown. I really like that one. I like seeing Winston Wright get it. I don't know. I really don't know what could be the play of the game. They looked very well yesterday. And,
Yeah.
like I said, I think a lot of that was due to how bad Texas was on the defensive side of the ball. But, they looked like a good offense yesterday. And Letty ran hard. I love seeing that. So I don't know. I don't know if I can pick a play. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I refuse to pick
that
a
pass
play.
to Winston Wright was probably the best
Just
pass
like the
I've seen
win.
Nagy throw all year. It was good.
Oh, on the money.
Yeah, it was a good throw.
Yeah,
if I
Jared
had to pick
Dickey
one, I would
actually
say
looked
the
like he
lineman
could throw a
probably
deep ball
goes to-
yesterday. That was something nice to see.
Yeah, he was laying them out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he has time to do it, he can make him look fine. But yeah, I would say my play of the game is kind of similar to Jordan's, but I don't remember. I think it was like 3rd and 15, and I think it was later in the game. I don't know if the drive led to a touchdown, but it's just keeping the drives alive. Is that Reese Smith caught a deep one on another 3rd and real long right there, and kept us moving, kept the ball going, kept the clock turning. And I remember that sticking out to me because I was like, oh, look at Reese Smith making another big play. Reese Smith's had a couple big plays so far this year, and that's just like really impressive for a guy that's worked his way into playing time.
Right.
Yeah, and that was a tough catch. And Reese Smith seems to be like a guy that always comes in and clutch situations, third downs, and he'll make that grab for you and everything. And I've really liked what I've seen from him, and I think he has a bright future going forward. And third downs was a big story of the game. West Virginia held Texas a lot, and then they were really efficient on their third down attempts on offense. I think shout out to the West Virginia defense. I think it can't. We need to not go unsaid without saying that because they've been good all season. And Jordan Leslie, he's been named a Broyles Award finalist, one of the 30 finalists for the top assistant coach of the year. And I think that's well deserved, especially when you look at a game like this. I know Texas was beat up, but West Virginia is really beat up on defense if you look at it, and they still performed like that. Texas didn't get a first down until late in the second quarter. And, you're missing Nick Troy Fortune, you're missing Exree Lowe, Lance Dixon, Charles Woods, and they still come through and do some good things. So I just definitely want to give some credit to that West Virginia defense.
Yeah, they really did play well yesterday.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that because Stephen had brought up recruiting, and I wanted to bring it up after he brought up that, but I'd forgot about it. I think that we're going to have to hit the transfer portal pretty hard this year. I think that we're really going to have to try to find some guys because our recruiting is looking good and we're picking up a lot of defensive backs and stuff like that. But I still just think that we need, especially where they extended our scholarship offers, where we're allowed 5 extra scholarships or whatever it is. I don't remember the exact ruling or the wording to it or how it went. But I think that Neil Brown's really going to – I think his offense is starting to get to the point where he wants them because he's got a lot of incoming linemen coming in. Our running back room is still going to be pretty girthy if, we can scoop up another running back. So I don't think that he's going to focus on the offensive side of the ball. He might go for like a wide receiver or two just out of the transfer portal. But I really see him trying to pick up some more linebackers just to kind of fill up that depth chart because I don't think he can have the same kind of year next year where you lose a couple guys, then you're having to play a safety at linebacker, So I think that we're going to hit the portal pretty hard this year.
Yeah, one thing I worry about on the defensive side of the ball mainly is, to be 100% honest, is keeping Jordan Leslie. I worry about the fact that if we, the defense is doing so well, we've already lost one co-defensive coordinator last year in Jamal Adai. West Virginia is famous for letting, offensive and defensive coordinators go, and assistant coaches all around for that matter. I've been preaching that for years now on the Country Roads webcast. So that's my main concern this offseason is if we can keep Jordan Leslie and a couple of our other assistant coaches, and whether or not a couple of them are actually gone. I think there's a few of them that we could agree that we might want to move on from and move to a different coach. But I think Jordan Leslie's at the top of the list to keep, and I'm not so confident that's going to happen.
Yeah, keeping Jordan Leslie should definitely be a priority number one for West Virginia for sure. But you bring up an interesting point there, Stephen, talking about assistant coaches. I think I know several of the offensive assistants have expiring contracts, and one or two on defense may as well. So that makes me want to pose this question to you guys: over under 3.5 new assistant coaches on next year's staff. What do you think, Bradley?
I'm sure. I couldn't even. This is something where I feel like I don't even know what could happen because I don't feel like we're going to lose Jordan Leslie. I think that he's pretty dedicated to Neil Brown, and especially considering we lost Jamal Adai to. I mean, he wanted to be the defensive coordinator. I mean, he wanted that spot, and he didn't really want to share it with anybody. And so when he left for Georgia to get a little bit better job and then a chance to move up to like a defensive coordinator position, I don't think that Jordan Leslie is going to turn around and leave on us. But I think that he does deserve every penny we can give him because that man is definitely putting in work and saving our lives this year. But yeah, 3.5 assistant coaches. Yeah, probably. I can see it happening, but
I think it's right there around that number. I think 3 or 4. I guess I would take the under if I'm Because I think maybe 3 is probably what I go with. What about you, Stephen? Over under 3.5 new assistants next year?
I was gonna say just slightly under. I would go with 3. I don't think that. I know that Neil Brown and Jordan Leslie have a really good relationship, but I don't think that necessarily has a factor on whether or not he stays at West Virginia. I think, especially in this world, we've seen, those bonds don't really connect as much as a lot of people think that they would, especially coaches. Coaches can still bond and still, go head to head with each other. And if Jordan Leslie's getting offered, however much money by somebody in the SEC or the Big Ten, versus whatever West Virginia can offer them, or what they will offer. They can offer a lot more money, in my opinion, but they just won't. Um, I think that's a major factor. Like who's to say that? And I'm just throwing out random names. I don't know who needs a defensive coordinator this year who's in a bad spot. But Texas. Let's look at that. They need a defensive coordinator in the worst way right now. Who's to say when they go to the SEC, they're not like, hey, Jordan Leslie, you whooped our butt last year. You want to come make all the money in the world at Texas? I'm not so confident that wouldn't happen. I hope that it doesn't happen, but I don't know. Until I can see West Virginia keep assistant coaches, for at least a little while, then I'm not going to be so confident in it, because every time, we can keep head coaches for a little while before that next step comes in. But for a lot of every other year, at least, West Virginia loses assistant coaches that start to, produce good numbers all the time.
That's one thing that's not talked about a lot either, I think, in today's game. Everyone talks about the transfer portal and losing a lot of players and stuff, but I think coaches move around just as much as players in the transfer
Mhm.
portal now. And especially if you're like kind of a mid-tier school like West Virginia that can't pay assistants as much as some other schools can, you really lose a lot of those. And those assistants, I think, just as much for portal as uh, coaching career. West Virginia's always in the same league.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've been trying to preach over the past couple of years, because I think that if West Virginia was able to keep some of their assistant coaches, the product on the field would be a lot better than what we've seen in some of the past seasons. Because I think that West Virginia reaches a point to where they're starting to develop and they're starting to hit their stride and gain a lot of chemistry with each other between coaches and players, and how they what the coaches are trying to get out of the players. They start to hit their stride, and as soon as they hit their stride, someone else comes calling for that assistant coach, and that assistant coach leaves, and then you got to start over from square one with a whole new assistant coach learning a whole new scheme. So I think that's definitely had an effect on West Virginia football over the past at least decade, in my mind, because in the Rich Rod era, that was his biggest gripe, was that they would not pay his assistant coaches, and I think that should scream something to the athletic department moving forward, even now, because it's clear to see that it's had a negative effect on West Virginia football in terms of everyone leaving so fast.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and it's continued through the years, and hopefully they wise up and learn from their mistakes, like you said. But like I said, priority number one, definitely keep Jordan Leslie. That's a guy that probably deserves a raise moving forward. But going back to this Texas game, we'll hand out some players of the games here before we get ready to close this out and get out of here on the Texas live stream reaction. But as always, we'll flip this into a podcast, have it there on the podcast. Subscribe there, Country Roads Webcast, on any podcast platform you like. And then we'll have the Kansas preview up there this week as well. And we'll be on our Facebook and YouTube, which if you're watching this right now, all of our videos are up there on our YouTube, Country Roads Webcast, and on our Facebook. That being said, players of the game in this one, gentlemen, who do you got, Stephen?
We just doing all together, or we doing offense, defense?
Let's go offense, defense.
Offensively, as much as I would like to give it to the QB, I'm going to go Letty, man. Letty ran with the head down all day long. I have seen nothing but effort out of Letty all season long, no matter what his offensive lines look like. You got to give it to the kid, man. He balled yesterday, so I got to go with LD, man.
Like it. Bradley, what about you on offense?
Yeah, it's for sure Letty Brown, baddest man in Morgantown. He put his legs to work yesterday, and he was hungry and wanting to come out and prove something on senior day. So he said he's still wanting to hit 1,000 yards this season. and I think he can do it. So yeah, he's definitely over 100 yards. We win. So
Yeah, somebody said he was going to go for 2,000 this year. Who said that?
I
That
don't
person's
know.
so dumb.
I don't know,
I
man.
don't know how
I'll
he did
tell
it.
you,
I
that
don't know. I'll
person
tell you.
must be the biggest amateur sports podcaster ever.
Hey, I mean, that's like I've said I've said crazier things probably.
Yeah, I'm not the most informed or not the most intelligent person on the podcast, but you know what? I sometimes get things right, and that's all that
There's
counts.
an there's intelligence on this podcast.
I didn't say that.
Oh, I was about to
No,
say
I didn't-
first I'm hearing of it.
I didn't- no.
But yeah, I'll make it unanimous. It's got to be Letty. 33 carries on senior day. Big day. Defense for me, Dante Stills, I think really showed up in a big way, especially in clutch moments.
Yeah.
So I'll go Dante on defense, Steven.
Josh Chandler Samito. Got it. Got to
And
go with him.
Bradley.
I'll give it to Sean Mahone for senior day. Like I
Yeah.
think they had said he
Yeah,
was played
got him a
50
pick.
games in a Mountaineer uniform. That's insane.
Yeah, man.
That's an insane amount of snaps or games for anybody.
That's almost as much as Dante, if not more, right?
Mhm. It might be more.
It might be more.
Well,
I don't know.
I'm sure it is more, 'cause
Dante.
Dante's only in Dante's a junior, right?
No, Dante.
Or is he a senior?
I thought he was a
I think
senior.
he's a senior. I think he's a senior.
He walked yesterday.
Yeah, COVID messed me up, so I can't.
Yeah,
remember
it's
who
hard.
people
I
are.
can't hardly keep up.
Yeah,
with
that's why
eligibility
it's
anymore.
confusing now. Yeah, I don't know who's a senior, who's a super senior, who's still a junior. It's all messing with me, man.
Well, Daigie's going to be like a 32-year-old starting quarterback next year, so that's cool.
Yeah, well, he says he has unfinished business, so
Yeah,
let's
we're
just
gonna have a
hope
senior
this,
citizen back there.
as this ESPN analyst said the other day, this all-American offensive line that we've got at West Virginia that's been non-existent anyway. If they can come together next year, I think that would really boost this offense, guys, because that's been the problem this year. We can harp on Jared Diggy all we want to. We can harp
When
on
our
drop
offensive
balls
line plays
by the
good,
receivers.
we look good.
Exactly. What has been the one
Yep.
factor, the one common denominator of all of our wins this year? Other than it contributes to this, but the 100 yards rushing and everything. Other than that, what's been the one common denominator? Offensive line play.
Yep.
When they can block, we win football games. I think that needs to be pointed out, which is
When they can't, we lose.
If I'm a betting man, I know that's being pointed out in the film room and better be the thing to work on in the offseason, because we've got talented guys. We see that. We got really talented guys. Young guys too. Caden Prather, credit to you, Bradley. You've been calling that all season. Caden Prather came out and he's balled the last 2 games. So, I mean, if we can get some of those
I thought he was
guys.
going to get his first touchdown yesterday. I was so ready for it.
Should have.
Yeah, he did. He hit 4 for 48, man. He really did ball. So I think he's going to really show up next year.
Caden Prather's getting not 1 but 2 touchdowns this weekend. I'm calling it.
Oh,
might.
that's a bold prediction.
He
I like
might.
it.
I mean, the Kansas defense isn't great. So I mean, we
It's definitely not.
might see another offensive production. That might be the I don't mean to get off on to Kansas already, but that might be the determining factor for whoever wins this football game this weekend. And if West Virginia can play well enough offense, I think their defense plays well enough to hold, the one talented player and their quarterback, because I think their quarterback really is what makes them great at Kansas. So
I agree.
I think that's the defining factor for this weekend.
Have you seen their fullback?
Yeah, but you can't run it with the fullback all the time when you got Akeem Mesidor and Dante Stills in your face.
True.
And then Taj Austin also. I don't want to discredit that man. He played well yesterday as well.
Yeah, he's had a great season, honestly. Taj Austin's probably been our breakout defensive player, if I had to say somebody.
Yeah.
Defensive line all around's been solid.
Which that's probably one of the first times I've ever been so confident in calling a group of guys all together and being so dominant. We all called that before the season, and they did not disappoint whatsoever. Of course, they haven't for the past couple of seasons anyway, but man.
Yep. And if you can get that offensive line right, I think you got something going moving forward, because they said that's been the 1 weak spot, and that's been when West Virginia's had good games. That's been the reason why is they've been able to run the football, and also going hand in hand with that, Jarrett Doege is a good quarterback when he can sit in the pocket and he has time. That's what makes Jarrett Doege good. So if the offensive line continues to improve, I think the sky's the limit for the offense. And as you said, in turn, the sky's the limit probably for this team because we've got faith in Jordan Leslie now for sure. I think as long as you keep him around, defense probably going to be at the very least solid. So if the offense can improve moving forward, who knows? But that being said, I guess that'll pretty much get us close to wrapping up here on this Texas reaction. Before we go, any final thoughts, gentlemen? Anything you want to say wrapping up this game or moving forward, looking ahead? Just anything you want to add at all? What do you got, Steven?
No, like I said, I just think that it's a really big positive to see that this team still has some fight in them, and going forward, I think that's all any fan can ask for with the way that this season has ended up. Because I think everyone's to the point to where we're disappointed. You know what I mean? I don't think that anyone is not disappointed with how this season's turned out. So just glad to see fight in them. I think that going into this weekend and fighting for bowl eligibility is a good thing for West Virginia because it gives them something to play for. But I don't know. I want to see a little bit more out of West Virginia in the way that they play. I think that we all do, but basketball. Looking ahead to that, we got that show coming up in a few days, so be on the lookout.
Oh yeah.
Probably going to be around Tuesday, if I had to guess.
CRW Hoops coming at you this week. Charleston Classic recap, and then looking ahead at what's moving forward. Looking forward to that. That being said, I think West Virginia, fighting for bowl eligibility is big, and hopefully you got to go on the road and get a big win, get to a bowl game, and then try and win that thing, and get yourself geared up for a bigger and better 2022. Hopefully, with a more experienced offense and hopefully more improved offense, as West Virginia will need it. It's kind of my final thoughts. Bradley, anything you want to add here?
Yeah, no, I think you guys have hit it pretty good. The big thing I was going to triply emphasize, I guess, just how big it is to have something to play for this weekend. Playing for bowl eligibility is probably what's going to save our lives this weekend. If we win a game, I think that's what's going to be it. Other than that, I just got 2 of these, and I'm good.
They go that way. They go down.
Hey, I do want to say that was the highlight of the
Mhm.
football game. They showed I get it was something military. I don't know if they were the guys that flew over in the planes before the game or what, but man, they showed about 8 to 10 of those guys, and every one of them gave the horns down. And I haven't seen a bigger
Oh
reaction out of that
yeah.
crowd since the Virginia Tech game earlier this season. So that was
You
pretty
gotta
awesome to
love
see.
it. That's awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. Horns down forever. Sending them out of Morgantown with a loss and finishing with a winning record over Texas in Big 12 conference play. Hopefully, they may stay one more season, but at the very least, we won't have a losing record to them. And probably the last time they'll play in Morgantown, they'll go out with a big L. So that's the main thing to say here on the Texas Reaction Show. Be on the lookout for the Kansas preview dropping midweek. CRW Hoops coming at you this week as well. A couple episodes of that on the podcast. Check those out on any platform, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever. Country Roads Webcast there. Country Roads Webcast video version on YouTube and Facebook. Coming at you this week with those. That being said, as always, I'm your host, Jordan Cruz, for Steven and Bradley. Until next time, let's go, Mountaineers.